Couldn't make it last Sunday? Here's a recap just for you on this Sunday Snapshot.
Holy Gospel according to Luke, beginning with the 16th chapter. Then Jesus said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was squandering his property. So he summoned him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Give me an accounting of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer. Then the manager said to himself, what will I do, now that my master is taking the position away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I've decided what to do so that when I am dismissed as manager, people may welcome me into their homes. So, summoning his master's debtor one by one, he asked the first, how much do you owe my master? He answered, 100 jugs of olive oil. He said to him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 50. He then said to him, how much do you owe? 100 containers of wheat. And he said to him, take your bill and make it 80. And his master commended the dishonest manager because he acted shrewdly. For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes. Whoever is faithful in a very little is faithful also in much. And whoever is dishonest in a very little is dishonest also in much. If then you who have not been faithful with the dishonest wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful with what belongs to another, who will give you what is your own? No slave can serve two masters, for a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. The gospel of the Lord. Scratch your head and sit down. Jesus spent a lot of time watching people. Exhibit A. Jesus sat at the treasury and he watched as people gave their offerings to the temple. He noticed people putting a lot. He also noticed a woman who had very little to her name, but she put in everything she had. Exhibit B. While at a wedding, Jesus noticed that people wanted the best seats in the house, not only so they could see the action, but so they could be seen by others. In this morning's gospel, Jesus looks at his disciples and says instead, here's a story for you. Get a load of this. There was a rich guy, and he had a guy who managed all his accounts. Turns out the guy was not very good at being honest, at being trustworthy. Actually, the word squandered is used in his performance review. The boss looked at the books and he found out that the suspicions were true. He was overcharging and putting the overage in his own pocket. As a result, he was fired on the spot. What do you say we call this guy Fred? Sorry if your name is Fred. Fred, yeah, boss, what's up? Actually, it's you. You're ripping off my clients, and in turn, you're ripping off me. So, you're out of here. Adios. Don't let the door hit you. Turn in your ID, your keys, your parking pass. Hit the road, Fred. What does Fred do? He concludes, this is not good. My wife, Wilma, is not going to be happy about this. We have mouths to feed. We have college in the future. I need to make some money. All right, he says to and about himself, being his own life coach. I am not handy. I can't do construction work. My knees are bad, so is my back. I'm much too proud to beg, even though it's okay if I'm a thief. Hey, you know what I can do? I can go to the clients and I will give them a bargain. As in, I can go to Donnie, who owes 200, and I will say, pay me 100. I will go to Ronnie, who owes 100, and say, pay me 50. I will go to Lonnie and say, you owe 50, make it 25. The clients will think I'm great. Some may become my own clients. The only one who will not be happy is the one who fired me, but remember, he fired me. Can't you just picture the disciples sitting there thinking, I know what comes next. I know what comes next. The boss drives over to the guy's house. He storms up and he lays into him. But Jesus says, you know what? The boss, the one who fired Fred, he sought Fred out and he commended him for being shrewd. The disciples had to be thinking, come again? He wasn't ticked. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. He didn't reach out to his attorney. No, he actually called him shrewd. By the way, shrewd is defined as sharp, clever, practical, with an element of cunning or artfulness. Sharp, clever, practical, with an element of cunning or artfulness. Now, if all that wasn't enough, Jesus says the people of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their generation than are the children of the light. One of the things I do when I preach is I look at a few select commentaries. I do my research. I know what you're thinking. It doesn't show. But imagine what would happen if I didn't do it. Personally, I don't like taking other people's stuff. I don't think you pay me what you pay me, so I read other people's stuff. But when I take their stuff, I cite my source. But here's the deal. Some texts are clearer than others. For example, when Jesus said, love your neighbor or forgive those who trespass against you, I've heard pastors say, I've heard parishioners say, well, I don't know if he meant that exactly. Did Jesus really mean that we're supposed to love all of our neighbors? What did he really mean when he said we should forgive those who trespass against us? Well, actually, I think he meant that we are supposed to love everyone. And I think he said, basically, we are to forgive all those who trespass against us. End of story. It's hard to do, but it's not confusing what he said. Everyone? Yep. All the time? Yep. And then there are times when Jesus says something and we have to rely on what we think he may have meant, based upon what we've read in other parts of the Bible, based upon what we know from the writings of Martin Luther, the Small Catechism, and other great thinkers, both then and now. To add another layer to this, I'm not trying to confuse you. How one interprets what Jesus says is also determined by one's overall theology, without using labels, without naming denominations, because I think we need less of that in the world. Let's say there's a passage in Scripture where Jesus does something great and his disciples do something not great, which is about 85% of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You with me? But people in a particular denomination look at that particular text, and their sole takeaway is, the disciples were wrong, we better not be wrong like them or else God's going to get us. While other denominations look at that same text, and all they clearly say is, I think we're sinners too. What do you say we sing a sermon hymn? And then there are denominations that point out the reality of sin. They also go one more step to say in a myriad of ways, we are no different, but so is Jesus. And then they go one more step and say, we are called as disciples of Christ to fight the good fight with Jesus, to do his will and love and forgive and serve and do. So when I read this head scratcher, I thought I should read a few commentaries and see what I find. I should consult the experts. I should seek the counsel of those who are more smarter than me. And so this is what I found. I found a common theme. I found this: the text is really hard to preach on. Well, thank you. I found this text is really difficult to understand. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you got paid to write that. I had another one that said this is really difficult to explain, and good luck applying it to daily life. But as soon as I read all that, my first thought was that stories told by Jesus, sermons delivered by Jesus, are by no means easy and straightforward. I will go in order. Easy. What Jesus says, and I've already started this, it's not easy. You are to love your neighbor in a profound way that is unconditional. You are to have a commitment to my will every single day of your life. Take up your cross and follow me. Those who lose their life will gain their life. That's not easy pickings. And straightforward? Not very often. Actually, Jesus used about every form of speech there is. He used metaphors and similes and hyperboles and analogies and idioms and personifications, to name just a few. Sometimes Jesus said what he said, and no further thought is required. But more often than not, his message is veiled, it's mysterious, and when we come upon a theory, a light bulb doesn't go off. And we all have our own thoughts. And so when I have a text like this, I borrow the last part of the Serenity Prayer. Do you know that? God, grant me the wisdom to know the difference. Did he mean it literally, figuratively, or somewhere in between? So after I said that prayer, I asked myself the question, why did Jesus tell such an awkward and strange story? And this is what I got. Hey, I just want to warn you that it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. A lot of people will say that they're not going to bite you, but that's exactly what a lot of people are going to do. They're going to take a bite out of you. Most people will say they're willing to be there for others, but the truth is a lot of people are quite focused on themselves. And once they have themselves squared away, they're actually going to look around and help their neighbor. Oh, I almost forgot, says Jesus. The early bird gets the worm. If you want some of that, you better get up and you better get yourself some. In fact, if you want to make it, you have to want it. You have to be hungry. You have to know your priorities, and then you need to live accordingly. Is that what Jesus is saying in and through this text? Actually, yes, in a way, I think it is. Is Jesus condoning cheating and lying as acceptable lifestyles? Absolutely not. But I think the best thing for us to do is go back to the beginning of the sermon. And I know what some of you are thinking, don't, because this is long enough the way it is. But anyone who's any good at telling a story has to wrap it all together. And here's your gift wrapping. Remember, Jesus spent a lot of time watching people. He heard what they talked about. He heard what they said and what they didn't say, what they did and what they didn't do. He saw how they spent their time. He saw how they spent their money. And now in the 16th chapter of Luke, of which this is a part, Jesus knows that in only 6 chapters, people with power and authority are going to do everything they can to put him on a cross. In light of all that, Jesus says, just imagine how different my world would be if my disciples were as committed to my ways as they are to the ways of the world. I'll say that because that's worth the price of admission, and it's free. Just imagine how different my world would be if my disciples were as committed to my ways as they are in the ways of the world. Here are my words. Your children and your grandchildren can recite every lyric of every song that they love, but they can't remember their spelling list. They cannot remember that they are supposed to take the garbage out on Tuesday and Friday. Just imagine if they were as serious about their textbooks as they are about their iPhones. Just imagine if every spouse spent as much time developing goals for their marriage as they did their career. Actually, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is how the late Pastor George Buttrick put it in his sermon in 1929. In 1929, I quote, "We pursue the things of this world with great eagerness. He labors early and late. She allows herself few vacations. When the hard day is ended, he returns home only to further study the psychology of salesmanship. Barriers do not daunt her. In fact, they are erected to be overcome. His devotion to the quest of wealth and success is all-absorbing. They will tax body and mind to win the goal. Is golf their pleasure?" he wrote. "If so, they will stint no money for clubs and instruction. They will study the mysteries of stance and the grip and the swing and the follow-through. If they fail 1,000 times, they will return with courage renewed, resolved to achieve. But, what of the enlightened ones, the children of God? Do they pursue the truth of Scriptures as the people of the world pursue business and pleasure? End of quote. Just imagine if parents stressed religious instruction as much as they did participation in sports. I'll just let that sink in. You need to go to confirmation. You can skip your soccer practice because Jesus is more important. Just imagine if people were as excited to worship God as they are to cheer on their favorite sports team. Just imagine what would happen to Emmanuel if all of us recommended this place with the same ferocity we did our favorite restaurant. Vacation spot, wine, newest device. You simply have to check out Emmanuel. You have to check out Jesus. It's great. It will change your life. Just imagine what would happen if in matters of faith we had the same drive, the same passion, the same amount of motivation as we did with the things of this world. We think this is so strange and awkward that we can't find what Jesus is saying, but I think we can. I think it's worthy of thought and prayers, asking God to help and guide us. Not to become more like Fred, but to become more like Jesus. Just imagine. How great would that be? If myself, pursued with the same motivation, matters of faith, as we do matters of this world. It's not that offensive. Unless it's offensive. So help us God. Amen.
Thanks for watching this week's Sunday Snapshot. Please give us a like, share with family and friends, and subscribe for more of what Emmanuel has to offer.